Welcome back to another spectacular thing. Today we are looking at the e-reader again. This time we're going to look at it in .NET. Last time we looked at it in Python. We had this e-reader py file that we worked through, and it was about 100 lines of code, and it read a PDF file, the rpy PDF, and converted it into bitmaps that we then displayed on the screen. We used a couple of files, this epdconfig.py, as well as this epd5in65fpy file, to communicate with the ePaper module that we have. Now these files were provided by the company Waveshare that created this ePaper module. So I took the code and I rewrote it in .NET. So for example, this epdconfig py file is now config.cs. And it has all the same information, like the pins, the reset pin, the DC pin, the chip select pin, the busy pin. All of that information is kept across over in the .NET world. And then I created this epdcs file, which is a copy of epd5in65f py file. And it has all of the information, like the epd width and height, as well as the colors and some information, as well as like the reset pin information, the DC pin, busy pin, CS pin. So as you can see, they're all but identical, with just a couple of minor tweaks here and there. And I'll explain the tweak that I added in here in a bit. I also created interfaces for these, the iconfig and the iepd interface, so that I can use inversion of control or dependency injection with these. Now, the change between the Python way and the .NET way is that in the Python way we used PDF. We used an rpy PDF file that was about 200 pages long, and we converted each of those pages into bitmaps. In .NET we're going to use an actual Epub, which is a zip file containing the contents of a book. And in this case, the book is called Three Musketeers, one of the great classics of all time. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Python, and we'll go through and look at the .NET code. Okay, so what's important here? The program file is where the static void main lives. So program.cs contains static void main, and that's where the program really starts. I create a service provider because I'm doing inversion of control, and I'm doing inversion of control because I like doing IOC and dependency injection. So we create a logger because I like to have logs, a singleton for image manipulation, and a concrete class of image manipulation, as well as a config, epd, reader, and then we build the service provider. Let's first look at this image manipulation, because that's the first thing that gets created. Well, first we create a log service, then we create an epd from the service provider. We get an epd, and that's just, as I said before, the information to communicate with the e-reader or the ePaper module. Next, if we look at this image manipulation is quite simple. There's get bitmap, add text to bitmap, which returns the bitmap after adding text to it, and then figure out cover size, which returns a size based on the current size and the max size. And it's just got a little bit of math in there. It's fairly straightforward. As well as add cover image. So we can get a bitmap, we can add text to the bitmap, and we can add the cover image to the bitmap. So this image manipulation is quite simple. And as you can see here, we have brushes for the 7 colors that the ePaper module can do, as well as a logger. We inject the logger into the image manipulation. Get bitmap just creates a bitmap, clears it to white, and returns it from the size that we pass in. We can rotate the image. Rotate image is a public static function on image manipulation where you pass it a bitmap and it rotates it to the correct angle. It rotates at 270 degrees or minus 90 degrees, however you want to look at it. Next, we can add text to a bitmap, pass in the bitmap and the text that we want to add to it, as well as what color brush, where we want to put it, and a font size which defaults to 36. And as you'll see, we never actually use the default font size, so we could probably get rid of that also. Public size, figure out cover size. So given a size of the cover and a max size, which is the actual size of the ePaper module, come up with a new size for the cover so that the cover can fit on the screen. And then add cover image. You pass in a bitmap, you pass in an image, as well as a location. The location is usually 00, and then the size that you want to convert the image to. So here we figure out the cover size, we resize the image, and then we add the image to the bitmap and return the bitmap. And that's all just image manipulation. Next, we have a reader, which is fairly straightforward. We can open a book, we can get the title page, we can get the cover image, we can get the table of contents, and we can get the page, and we can get a current page number. So we pass in a page number and it returns the page. And these last two create a tuple, bitmap and bool. The bool says if there's more information, then it's true, otherwise it's false. The bitmap is the actual contents of the page, so the table of contents or the page number. And in the case of cover image and title page, it's just the bitmap, because there's only one cover image and there's only one title page in this e-reader. And again, if we look at the code is very straightforward. We inject a logger, image manipulation, and the EPD. And then we can open the book. It uses this package called Verse 1 from, it's Verse 1 is the company that makes it, and Epub. It's an open source NuGet package that I added in to actually handle the manipulation of the Epub, as well as HTML Agility Pack, which I'll show you what we use that for later. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So then the program, we get a reader, we get an image manipulation service, and we get the EPD, and then we log hello world. And once again, just as we did in the Python world, we got our GPIO controller, a couple of buttons, one for the next button, one for the home button. We have we open the pins for the home button and the next button. We initialize some variables, page number, book mode, which I'll explain in a minute, and has more. And then we call reader open book 3 musketeers.epub. Next, while the home button is true, right? So again, we're going to block right here in this while loop. And this is this while loop is the program. So if you push the home button, the program ends, basically. Then, if the controller read next button, so if you push the next button, then we go into the switch case. Okay, and we switch on the book mode. So book mode starts at 0, and that's to read the cover image. And then when you read the cover image, we increase the book mode, and then the next time it goes to the title page, we increase book mode. The next time it goes to the table of contents, it does some work, and then we go to get page number. So we start off, we show the cover image, we show the title page, we show the table of contents, then we show the particular page number. Now, case 2 and the default 3 have some extra logic in here. And that extra logic means that because there can be more than one page of table of contents, and there's obviously going to be more than one page of book, this returns a tuple. Remember, bitmap and a bool. So the first item 1, is bitmap. And that bitmap we want to display. Then we look at item 2, which is the boolean, and we store that in has more. So if there's more pages, then we increase the page number, and we break out of this loop, and we continue the loop, basically. And the next time through, then we would show page 2. Well, it starts at 0, so we'd show page 1. When there aren't any more pages, then we reset the page number to 0, and we change the book mode to which would be 3. And the same thing goes for page number, or get page number. We call get page number with the current page number. Again, we start at 0. And this returns a tuple, having the image first, and then having the boolean second. And has more, increases the page number so we can see the next page and the next page and the next page. Now, the complication that arose when I was writing this was on get page number. So if we look at the reader and we look at get page number, you can see that there's a lot of logic in here. And the majority of this logic is in figuring out what to display on the page. So we display page number. We log that. Then we start at 00 on the page. We get a bitmap. We set has more equal false. And then we figure out skip chars. Do I actually use skip chars anymore? I don't actually use skip chars anymore. Yeah, let me get rid of skip chars. This was old code, not needed. Let me back up a little bit. The first thing we need to do is open the book. So if we go up here to open book, you see that we pass in the path to the Three Musketeers Epub. Then eReader read book path gives us a book, an open Epub book. And then we can read the book. So I store the book in a variable up here, a private ebook variable called book. And then we read the book, and we store the book contents as a string in this object as well. So let's look at read book. So read book creates a string builder, and then for each text content file in the book in reading order, we create a new HTML document. Then we load the HTML. Then from the HTML nodes, we select just the text, and we trim it, and we append it into the string builder. And then we return string builder to string. So basically we take the book and we put the entire book into a big long string. And then we can manipulate that string to decide what to display. So we take the book content, we split it by new lines, and that's an array of strings called lines. Then for I equals 0 less than lines per page, so I figured out how many lines per page we could have with a font size of 10. And I put that into, this should really be static, but our private read-only int. Let me change these to read-only. That makes more sense. So lines per page, there's 49 lines per page, and characters per line is 56. Now, we could hold 50 lines per page, because if you take 12 pixels per line, divide it by 600 pixels total is 12. Excuse me, it's 50. So in theory you can show 50 lines per page, but in practice I noticed that the last line was cut off a little bit. So I chopped that line off and we said we can only do 49 lines per page. And then I counted how many characters per line we can show, and that's 56. So in here, lines per page, 49. So current line number is equal to I plus page number times lines per page. Okay. And then we did some logic. If line number is greater than line's length, then has more is false, and we break out of this for loop. Otherwise, we do some more work to get just the characters that we want, and we add the text to the bitmap. So each line we add to that bitmap image that we're going to display on the screen. And then there's still one line here of this string has more characters that can fit on one page. And so there's one corner case here that I still have a problem with that I'm working on. Anyway, then we return the tuple, bitmap bool, bitmap, and has more. Pretty straightforward, right? Great. Let's go to program.cs. And so that's just the page. So display the page. Pretty straightforward, right? So the next thing that we want to do is I'm actually developing this locally on my main machine because I get IntelliSense. So for example, here, if I say log information, I get IntelliSense. Unfortunately, with .NET 5.0.101, so 5.0.101, there is a problem where we can't debug on the Raspberry Pi. And I think if I read the comments correctly in the issue in GitHub, this will be resolved in 5.02 and higher. So I'm waiting for 5.02 to find out if this actually works. But for now, this will be fine. We develop on our local machine, and then I've got this publish.bat file that calls .NET publish. The type is Linux ARM. Self-contained is false. And then show linker size comparison equals true. That doesn't really matter. You can take that out if you want. Then we push D this bin debug Linux 5 Linux ARM publish. That's where the files are located after they've been compiled with this .NET publish command. Then we secure copy all of those files over to my Raspberry Pi, which is named Ashley still, into a folder called projects.net reader. And then I also want to secure copy the contents of the Epub folder over to the .NET reader folder also. That's just the Three Musketeers Epub. Okay, so that's also straightforward. Let's go ahead and save this, and I'll show you what it can do. So let me switch cameras. So you can see here we have the Epub paper module. We have the same two buttons that we had before and the Raspberry Pi. And in fact, this is the exact same setup that we did on the Python version. And now we're going to show you how it works with .NET. So let me open a terminal, and I'll run the publish bat, and it'll go ahead and do the .NET publish. It'll copy the files over to the Raspberry Pi, and then it'll finish. Now let me create another terminal, and we'll SSH into Ashley. Just like that. We'll cd into projects/netreader. And as you can see, all of these files are the files that were copied over during that secure copy command in the publish. So here we have our Epub, Three Musketeers Epub. We have the HTML Agility Pack DLL, as well as extensions, configurations, abstraction, extensions, configuration binder, configuration, dependency injection, abstractions, dependency injection, logging abstractions, etc. You can see all the files that we have. But most important, we have NetReader. Okay, so if I run NetReader, you can see it gives us our friendly hello world. Now, what happened up to this point? Well, in our public static void main, we created our service provider, we got a log, we got the EPD, we got the image manipulator, we got a reader, and then we logged hello world. Next, we created the controller, the buttons, we opened the pins on those buttons, and now we're stuck in this while loop of waiting for the home button to be pressed. Now, if I press the home button, which is the bottom button here, it'll just end the program. So that's not very interesting. The interesting thing is if I push the top button. And as you can see, it starts the motion of creating that cover image. So we're in book mode 0, so we're going to display the cover image. And as you can see, the screen is painting. Well, the screen is clearing right now. Then it does some work on the image to get it to the correct height and width that need to be for painting this image. And then it paints the image on the paper. And as you can see here, we've got the Three Musketeers, Alexander Dumas, Project Gutenberg. I got this book from Project Gutenberg. That's why it says that. And this is kind of a reddish, maroonish color that's being displayed right there. Now, if I push the next button again, next we'll create the title page. The title page is fairly boring. I just have the title of the book as well as the author's name. So again, it clears the screen. It readies the bitmap, and then it paints the bitmap onto the screen. Right now. And there you have the Three Musketeers, Alexander Dumas. If we press the next button again, now we get into building the table of contents. So let me switch cameras so that we're just on the e-reader. As you can see, it's painting the screen. Oh, it cleared the screen. Now it's going to paint the screen. And there's the first page of contents painted on the screen. I can push next, and we'll get the next page of contents, which is a little bit smaller because this book only has 2 pages of contents. So it cleared the screen, and now it's going to paint the screen. And there's the second page of contents. Now, when I press the next button, now we're getting into the actual contents of the book. And unfortunately, this book starts with the table of contents once again, as well as some legal information at the first bit. So it's going to paint that. It's going to clear the screen, like it always does. It's going to do a little bit of image manipulation where it rotates the image, and then it'll paint it to the screen. And there you go. Now we have an e-reader that's actually readable. The contents on the screen, although they look a little fuzzy here, once this page paints, let me manipulate the image and then send it to the e-paper module for display. But let me pick this up, and if you can see, I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn on a light. It's much more readable than the PDF was. Now, if I press this home button, you can see that the code just exits. And that's all there is to it. I have this code up on my GitHub. I'll post a link to that down below in the comment or in the details section, as well as links to get the e-paper module and the Raspberry Pi from Amazon. Affiliate links, of course. If you have any questions for me, please drop them in the comment section below. I like to hear what you guys have to say, and if you have any issues with the code, go ahead and create an issue or a pull request on GitHub, and I'll take a look at that. So thank you very much for watching. This has been another Spectacular thing. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe below and hit the bell so you'll be alerted when I do post another video. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.